The first method for burning fat that I'm going to cover is the most basic one, and that is walking. Adding this to your workout routine 3 to 5 times per week is an effective and easy way to burn calories and fat. The second method is running, and this one can be done at a leisurely pace or with varying speeds where you alternate jogging and sprinting every 30 seconds to effectively mimic a HIIT training. Another method is stair climbing, and while walking around the Art Museum in Philly this past weekend, my honey and I had to do the obligatory rocky run up the steps before we got our walk in. We set out to do the 8-mile loop around the museum, but ended up doing about 5 miles instead. I've been in Pennsylvania for almost 9 years now, and I've walked up these steps before, but ironically this was the first time I ran up them, and it was much easier than I expected. It was a beautiful day, and we took advantage of the nice weather to get in close to 13,000 steps that day. It felt great, and it was a little taxing as this former marathon runner you see here was pretty spent afterwards. So I finally received my heavy bag, and FedEx was kind enough to leave it at the end of my 75-foot driveway for me to retrieve. But I got it set up and used it several times this week, as you'll see. Another cardio method is cycling, be it indoors or out. You can effectively burn a lot of calories this way. The nice thing is this is a low impact method for those that may have joint issues, as there is no impact on the knees or the joints like there is with jogging. I set up the recumbent bike next to my office desk and try to get on it when I don't need to actively use my keyboard or mouse, and it helps with maintaining the caloric deficit I'm aiming for. Now, I began this second week of my self-imposed challenge down half a pound, down 0.3% body fat, and having gained 0.3% muscle mass, according to the scale. I'm still not trusting it fully, as it has been sporadic with its measurements as expected. I've been weighing myself before bed and when I wake to see what kinds of trends it may report, but the results are a bit confusing, so I'm still not sold. Another method of cardio is just doing basic chores. So I've instructed my landscapers to come every other week instead of every week now, so that I can get some additional steps in. Just mowing my lawn, you can see all the ground covered over more than 2 miles worth for over an hour of work, and it effectively raised my heart rate for a short stint. It burned almost 600 active calories too. So the next method is weight training, which this channel is focused on, and both the exertion with loads and the pace you set is a very effective way to burn calories and fat. This is one that should not be overlooked, as it is a known fact that the more muscle mass your body has, the more effective it is at burning fat. The graph shows my heart rate hitting peak zone for almost 3 minutes and the intense zone for almost 17 minutes this day, which was one of my shorter workouts at under an hour. You can see the peaks and valleys on another day's workout at about an hour and a half, with 38 minutes in the intense zone. Generally, staying more active and increasing your steps daily is a bonus on top of the weight training. So the next cardio method, and my current favorite, is working the heavy bag. My goal is to work 3 rounds of about 3 minutes with roughly 45 seconds of rest in between for just over 10 minutes of cardio work. You can see it had me in the peak zone for almost 5 minutes and in the intense zone for over 3 minutes. Over time, this will certainly add up to some positive results. It is extremely taxing and much harder than it looks, which is why I love it. Now, I am not a trained boxer, so I want to disclose that up front, but I just enjoy working the bag. I basically work some basic combinations, aim for close-up work, as well as some long-range and mid-range work too. Now, my nutrition is still a factor, and I'm still focused on nutritious meals throughout the day. I still favor oatmeal with fruit for breakfast, and if it does not have some added protein, which sometimes changes the texture in an unfavorable way, I'll add a hard-boiled egg to the mix. I'm also still enjoying a hard-boiled egg or two for morning snack, along with mixed nuts. A little later, I'll discuss some snack prep to keep things easy and precise. For lunch is either leftovers or a relatively nutritious meal from Freshly, and this one was a Thaiish lemongrass bowl with basmati rice, chicken, broccoli, mushrooms, and more. Calorie count is light for me, but the sodium content is higher than I'd like. But I'm on the lighter side of sodium with other meals and meal prep. Now, prepping one of my favorite snacks involves measuring out the nuts on a food scale and bagging them for convenience later on. I start with my bowl on the scale and add 4 different nuts at about 15 grams each. I'm using pistachios, almonds, cashews, and pecans this time around. They all provide some protein and healthy fats. I end up with 60 grams of nuts for around 320 calories in a very convenient way to grab and snack when my alarm goes off. This was a weekend meal of scrambled eggs with salsa for healthy flavoring, mixed fruit, and some raisin toast. Now, the toast is again higher in calories and carbs than I like, but once or twice a week shouldn't affect the nutritional goals too much. Another healthy snack I love is hummus with celery or carrots with a few pita chips. Now, I go with the serving size the bag indicates, which is 10 chips for about 160 calories. And yet another snack I often have is a protein shake with fruit, milk, and oats. Another snack is mixed nuts with yogurt and fruit for about 500 calories total. This is a lot tougher than it looks. As you can see, the heavy bag is hard work for sure, but it's also a lot of fun, so I'll stick with it and work on my technique along the way. Anyway, the weight training is going quite well, and even though there are some days that have been tough to grind out lately, it seems there is an opposite, extremely good day of training within the same week, so I can't really complain as progress is still being made. There is another cardio method I'm leaving till the end, so bear with me while I cover some of the weight training details. This day here in gray, I worked the heavy bag twice, once before and once after my lifting, and still had a great weight training session. I couldn't include volume from the heavy bag session in the corner, as I had music going on in the background and I don't want any copyright strikes. Anyway, the squats went very well and I felt strong all throughout. Lat pull downs are still one of my favorites and I'm still banging out 155 pounds here. My shoulder, arm, accessory work is going well too, and the weight is getting easy at 65 pounds for curls and skull crushers. I'm adding in pullovers to the mix and they're feeling pretty great. It's just too bad the heaviest my adjustable dumbbell goes to is 52.5 pounds. I definitely need to acquire some heavier dumbbells for this kind of work, so hopefully I can get a hold of some soon. I used to do the pullovers with 75 pounds in my commercial gym, so this weight is a far cry from that. You'll notice the heart rate graph for this workout has lots of peaks and valleys, and that is what I'm aiming for as I try to reduce my rest in between sets to keep the heart rate in the optimal zones. I had to get some wrap for my hands because I ended up with some skinned knuckles due to friction from inside the glove, and I also have to develop my wrapping technique to protect my hands without restricting blood flow. Now you might have noticed the bands on the heavy bag that I added prior to my second session that day, and that's to give me some targets to aim for, like headshots and body shots. On this last day of weight training for the week, which was Saturday, I did the weight training along with another session on the heavy bag. Deadlifts were tough on this day, but I got through the top two sets of 300 pounds, and then the back off sets at 265 pounds were more manageable. I think the problem was I worked out in a fasted state and didn't fuel my body with any breakfast, so it had an impact on my energy level. I certainly won't be making that mistake again. Bench press went very well without the use of the slingshot, so I'm happy with that. I also try to work on some kicking of the heavy bag whenever possible. There is a lot of power in kicks, so I try to give them their just due. Finally, the last method of cardio is a fun one for me, and I think many would agree. It's not often thought of as cardio, but it's quite effective as well. The method is dancing, so grab your better half or go at it alone, but do not underestimate how effective this can be. You seldom see heavy professional dancers, and that's because they burn thousands of calories with practice and performance. For us lay people, just 10 to 30 minutes of dancing can go a long way. So if that's something you're cool with, add it to the mix, and I promise you will see some benefit from it. So that's it for this week. I will close out by reporting the progress for the week with some graphs. I started the week out at 222.9 pounds with 24.4% body fat and 71.8% of muscle mass. And I ended the week Saturday evening with 224.2 pounds, 22.4% body fat and 73.7% muscle mass. So there was an increase in muscle mass along with a decrease in body fat, which is exactly what I'm aiming for. If I can decrease my body fat while still maintaining my weight around 225, that would be ideal, even though I admit it will be a challenge. So thanks again for joining me, and stay tuned for more when I come back next week with more results. Take care.